Let's talk a little bit about data and the specific data that gets onto our platform. So actually, when we first started the company a number of years ago, what we were looking at was there's a different, better way to get data, and that there's actually better data available than just standard OBD data. OBD data is really interesting. It has a lot of insight, but there's actually some better data. So what we did was we developed the technology set around sensor data and the ability to capture data from like accelerometers, magnetometers, which are digital compasses, gyroscopes, as well as GPS data. And as you bring that data together and you bring all those pieces together, you get some really interesting data sets. So you can take sensor data, accelerometers, magnetometers, gyroscopes, GPS, and from that you can generate events. And those types of events are similar to the types of event you would capture off of a standard OBD device, but they have a lot more data. And it's this raw data that gives us really a great differentiation. And the other thing that's really interesting about raw data is we generate events based on configuration settings and configuration values. For example, a hard brake. Let's say you want to determine a hard brake, and you're going to say it's a 7 miles per hour per second deceleration. Well, we can do that and configure that on the platform. But then let's say you want to figure out what would the risk profile look like for these users if we change it to 8 miles per hour per second. Well, what's unique about our platform is because we've collected raw data, you can change that configuration, you can trigger the system to rerun the analytics, and you'll actually find out the impact on the final scores. So you can do this really great what-if scenario and say, well, what if we changed the hard brake to 8 miles per hour per second? How would that have impacted how we would have underwritten these people over the past year? What's also really unique about it is because we have that raw data, you now have this library of data that you can perform this analytics against. In the classic world, you've already set it right at the device level. So on a classic OBD device, you've said, we're going to make hard brakes 7 miles per hour per second. And what happens is when that comes up to the platform, that shows up as just a deceleration of 7 miles per hour per second. You don't have the detailed data to be able to reanalyze that. Well, with the DriveFactor platform, if you have this raw sensor data and you bring that sensor data up, you can create those calculations and you can recut them over time. So that means your historical data is much more valuable. You don't have to change the variable and then wait 6 months for it to happen under the typical device world. With ours, you can actually use this historical data and within minutes make new decisions and gain new insights. So changing a certain variable, adding turns into a calculation or a score, you can run multiple scores alongside each other. So you can do a champion challenger type situation where what if we add this new variable to the score? How's it going to impact savings and discounts that people deserve? Or does it create new insights for us that our actuaries are interested in seeing? And you can do all this on this platform in a way that was never able to be done before because you have access to this raw data and you've got this highly flexible platform that allows you to do more than one thing at a time. And this drives a lot of benefits because it allows you to segment even further different populations. So when we talk about segmentation in the DriveFactor platform, it's a really critical piece as to what we offer. And this segmentation is a hierarchy structure. So we have this setting of partner, program, portfolio, and device. So every device that is attached to the DriveFactor platform, whether it's a mobile device, one of our devices, somebody else's device, is attached to the platform at the device level. Every device then belongs to a portfolio. And a portfolio can be defined along any segment that you decide. So if you decide it's people living within a geographical region, so in the US, maybe it's people that live in Virginia. Or you may define it as a certain population, males aged 18 to 24. It doesn't matter. The idea being is it's a segmentation that you define what the criteria is for, and we map devices into that segment. Portfolios then tie into programs, and programs again are just a higher level of segmentation. So if you want to differentiate, let's say by a brand, so we have some customers that put their different brands into different programs, and that's because they want to differentiate them from a branding perspective when they create portals, or they actually have different scores that are associated with them. And then there's the partner level, which is the top level of our hierarchy, which again, you determine what the factor is that determines how you set up your partner level. But we have some partners we have some customers with a single partner, we have other customers with multiple partners. And again, it depends on what you're trying to do and how you're trying to manage your program. We spend a lot of time early on in engagement working with you to determine the best segmentation hierarchy that drives to the goals of your program. So whether it's you're trying to drive behavioral change, we may set up the segmentation more around behavioral aspects. Whether it's different parts of your business because you are a multinational company. We deal with a lot of multinational companies that have locations in different parts of the world, and they want to segment each of their different programs by geographical regions. So there's a lot of things we can do with this segmentation hierarchy. And then along all the segmentation hierarchy is a series of configuration values. So how hard is a hard brake? How fast is a fast acceleration? What are the speed thresholds? What is an indicator of a crash? All these configuration values live within this hierarchy, and they can be overridden at any level. So for example, if you decide you want to, let's say you're shipping out devices only in a single time zone. So we have some customers that almost all their devices are deployed within a single time zone. And we have other customers, for example, in the US, that are, you have 5 or 6 different time zones that you need to cover. So the customers that are deploying devices in a single time zone, we just configure the time zone right there at the partner level. And if they have some devices that are outside of that in a different part of Europe or a different region based on customers, we can override that variable at a device level, and it will change how nighttime driving is calculated based on that time zone. For US customers, it's similar. They maybe have devices on the East Coast, on the West Coast, and from a customer standpoint, calibrating what time of day is nighttime driving, we just change the configuration and set that onto the device level. You may also have a segment of, let's say, young drivers that you want to target and say, let's make hard braking a little bit more aggressive for these users so that they're getting more indicators of hard brakes so they can understand the impact that may have on their discount or their scores. So you can take that segment and maybe create a portfolio out of it and set a higher level of hard brake. So anybody who hard brakes at 6 miles per hour per second as opposed to 7 or 8 miles per hour per second, which may be in your standard program. So you have this, and it overrides that value that is set higher up in the hierarchy. So this segmentation, this overriding capability really makes it flexible and easy to change how the program runs. And but it also allows you to use those values, change them, and you can have historically accurate values are stored within the system. So whether it was 3 months ago you changed the hard brake, well, you can see where that was and see how that impacted scores in the past and how it's carrying forward. And then you have the ability to execute new analysis against that using the new configuration values and see what the output is going to be. So how it impacts scores, how maybe it indicates more hard brakes than were previously. And then as you invent new variables, so we may work with you to develop new intermediate variables that you use in your score. Over time, as you gain expertise in these data sets, you'll be able to generate your own analytics and your own types of variables that you can contribute back to the platform. And we can run on the platform for you to generate new variables and new values that are used for your downstream scoring. And those can be applied at different segment levels, or they can be applied everywhere within your hierarchy, depending on what you're trying to accomplish.